Okay, so now we're going to actually use our GDC to help us factoring. And really, it's, as opposed to our GDC, it's really a graphical approach that we want to do. And we're going to ask to factor x squared plus 4x plus 3. And we're going to use it to help us factor. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to y equals. So I'm going to go y equals. And then I'm going to type in my expression. So I'm going to type in x squared plus 4x plus 3. Okay, and then I'm going to type and hit graph. You might want to make sure that you're zoomed into the, you could also do zoom into standard as my typical window. But and next thing we're going to do, and if we remember, I'm going to pull this over here. If we remember from the past, the x-intercepts here will help me factor. So if I can find these x-intercepts, that will help me be able to factor this scenario here into this scenario. Okay, and so that's what I want to do. So if I look at my x-intercepts, the next thing if I do, I'm going to go second calculate. So I go second calculate, which is the trace menu here, but it's calculate above. And I'm going to do number 2, which is a 0. X-intercepts are also called zeros. Okay, now it's asking me for a left bound. Well, the left bound, I have to think about this for a second. Now, this information here is not quite right. I'm going to first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to consider this one here first. And if I look at it, I can estimate it to be -1, but I don't know if that's true or not. And so the left bound says I'm going to pick a value to the left of -1. So a good value left of -1 would be -2. Hit enter. Then I want to be to the right of -1, so 0 or +1, and that's this case here. So this should be a -1 here. This should be a -2. So I'm going to, the right bound I'm going to make 0. And then my guess, well, I thought it was -1, and so if I do that, indeed it was -1. And so I know then that x equals -1. I repeat the same scenario in this case, and I'm going to look here. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go second, the trace menu, which is the calculate, number 2, which is the 0, and I'm going to choose this value this time. And if I look at that one, I'm going to estimate that to be -3. And so now the calculator is asking me to go left of -3. So number could be -5 is left of -3. I want to go a right bound of -3. Now I'm going to type in -2 because I want to make sure that I don't capture both of these x-intercepts. I want to be between the two. And then finally my guess is, we're going to guess -3. And indeed it is correct. X equals -3. And so now working backwards, we remember we move this over so that it is x plus 1 equal to 0. And so this factor is x plus 1. This one will be x plus 3. I could also have written it x plus 3, x plus 1, and it is exactly the same. So our calculator helps us find these factors, and this is factored. Try another example here. Try it yourself with the calculator. Try and factor x squared minus 4. So if I remember the steps, I'm going to go x squared. So I go x squared minus 4, graph. And if I pull this over, I can talk about it now. I can see I am looking for these values here. And if I'll do this one first, if I look at this one here, if I look at this one, what can you estimate this number here to be? What number might that be?
2.
Okay, that's a good estimate. Okay, so I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to go second trace, which is the calculate menu. I'm going to hit number 2, 0. And now the calculator is saying left bound. I want a number to the left of 2. So to the left of 2, what number is to the left of 2?
1.
1 works nicely. Hit enter. Now I want to the right of 2. So any number to the right of 2.
3.
3. 4 would work. 5 would work. Any of these values would work. I'm going to just type 3. Well, I'm going to guess 2, since that was my guess. And lo and behold, I was correct. And so one of my factors will be x, change the sign, minus 2. If I work at this one, could you estimate what that one there is, Riley?
2, maybe.
But a positive or negative, would you think this time? A negative 2. All right, so we go through the process again. We go second, trace, which is the calculate menu. Hit number 2 for 0. And I want to the left of negative 2. What number is to the left of negative 2? Any number will be fine as long as I'm left of negative 2.
Negative 5.
All right, perfect. And so I can just type in negative 5, or as you saw, I was toggling to the left. That works as well, but negative 5 works well. Now I want a number to the right bound, the right of negative 2.
Negative 1.
Negative 1 works good. And I like the negative 1 because it doesn't capture both x-intercepts, just the one, and that's the key. Guess, what was our guess?
I forget. Oh yeah, negative 2.
Right, if we look at the graph, we can see that it's negative 2. And indeed it is negative 2. So if x is negative 2, I switch the signs around and it'll be x plus 2. And so we can use our graphs and our x-intercepts to help us factor.